Howdy, I am Tom Christensen of Neurochrome, and this is a Technics SA-202 stereo receiver. It belongs to a friend of mine, and it's actually in quite nice shape, but it has this really annoying habit of occasionally, intermittently, dropping the left channel output. And because of that intermittent nature, that is a problem that's kind of difficult to diagnose and therefore repair. In this video, I will show you how to fix it. And I played with this for a bit. I took it home and I played with it, and I finally was able to make it fail reliably. I mean, that's kind of the key with diagnosing a failure. You have to be able to create the failure. And I have it hooked up to my distortion analyzer, and I can show you what this failure looks like. So as we can see here, the left channel is on the blue trace and the right channel is on the red trace, and you can clearly see that there is a significant difference between the two, even though the balance is set to neutral and the volume control is all the way up. So even under these conditions, I mean, there's almost a 10 dB difference in gain between the two. At first we thought, well, maybe the volume control just has gotten a little scratchy and needs a little cleaning. So we tried that, and that didn't really do much. As you can see, as I turn the volume control, and the volume gets lower, but the gain difference is still pretty significant. And then finally we get into basically off. And as I turn the volume back up, we get that difference in gain. So that's not really it. This receiver has kind of a fancy feature, and that is the tape monitor. And that allows you to listen to the material that you just recorded on tape while you're recording it. And that requires a tape deck that's a little bit fancier. It should have separate record and playback heads, but that's a different story. But the source monitor switch sits at the output of the input selector. So if that fails, let's say the left channel, somehow the switch gets dirty or whatever, develops a bad connection, then that will create the problem that we're seeing here as well. So let's fiddle with this tape monitor switch, and I just flip it back and forth a little bit, and it changes a little bit. At least now the gain is only off by 2 dB or so. So let's play with that some more. And so there we go. Now it basically works. I bet that switch has gotten dirty and just needs a cleaning. It could also be, it's probably mounted on a little circuit board, and that could have developed a bad connection, so I'll check that as well. But let's crack into that and see if we can fix this permanently. And now we're in. So this thing actually came apart pretty easily. The top is held with 3 screws attaching it to the back, and I think if you just remove those, you can actually slide the top out, or you're supposed to be able to, but that didn't quite work for me. It was a bit stuck on the side, so I just removed the one side, and then the bottom is held with a good handful of screws, and then it just pops right out. And what we have here is actually a really good example of, 1970s technology, where we have an open air dielectric capacitor, and that's a variable capacitor that is for the FM tuning, and that's driven through this weighted knob here on the front. There's a huge counterweight on the backside of it here, and this string arrangement drives both the variable capacitor and the indicator on the front. So that's actually pretty neat, and I really don't want to touch that because I probably won't be able to put that back together if that string ever breaks. So you want to be a bit careful around that. The power amplifier itself is just 2 chip amp modules. They were probably state of the art at the time, and they certainly work just fine today. If we tilt this and look inside the front panel, we have the 2 switches in question down there, and they're not really all that accessible. I was hoping to get in at them either from the top or from the front, and you can see the front is sealed off. I mean, there's no way to get in past this metal front panel either without taking the receiver completely apart. And if we flip this upside down and take a look at the bottom of it, you'll notice that the switches aren't really accessible along the front of the board either. So that's going to be a bit tricky to get in there. I think my best bet is actually to remove this little cloth cover here, and then, I mean, these switch caps just, or yeah, caps, they just pop right off. And then I can fold this out of the way, and I might be able to get some contact cleaner in through there. The contact cleaner that I like to use is made by a company called Keg, and the cleaner itself is called Dioxit D5. And it comes in a couple of different flavors, and this one is for metallic surfaces such as switches and stuff like that. And this one is called Fader Lube, and as the name indicates, that is for lubricating potentiometers and faders and stuff like that. And I'll try and get this into the volume control. It doesn't really appear to need cleaning, but it really doesn't hurt. I mean, this receiver is from 1980 to 1982 was when they were made, so yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to get a little cleaner in there. And if the cleaning the switch doesn't work, then the worst case scenario is that I'll just have to bypass the switch. But let's try this first. To get this in there, let's just see if we can squirt some in there. Try and get it into the switch. And let's see, I want to be careful with that. And let's see here. Like, give it a couple of squirts and then exercise the switch. I'm doing the loudness switch as well because I might as well. It's right next to it, and it wouldn't hurt either. And now let's get some cleaner in there from the top of the switch. These openings are probably going to be useful for getting some contact cleaner into the switch. So that's what I'm going to try here. And I'll just give it a squirt. Oh yeah, that worked. And then same deal, exercise the switch. And let's do that one more time, just for good measure. There. Exercise the switches. I mean, it should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Before you take the tuner or the receiver apart, or any other equipment that you intend to repair, make sure you unplug it. Because otherwise you could be in for a pretty nasty surprise. So now, let's have a look. And there's one more option here that I would like to explore. Oh, I see I made a mess with the contact cleaner. So let me just get that out of there before it gets into places where it shouldn't be. And the final thing I like to do with these switches is to make sure that there are no bad connections or no obvious bad solder joints. So I'll inspect the pins of the switches closely. It took me a bit of a close inspection to find this, but it does appear that there is a ring in the solder around this pin. That indicates to me that the pin itself didn't quite get hot enough during the soldering process, so this is likely a cold solder joint. So I will go in and I will redo those solder joints. It's also really easy for me to do now that I'm in here anyway. And one thing to keep in mind is that this circuit board is an old phenolic type, and they can't really handle all that much heat. So you want to make sure that you're using ideally leaded solder, and then use a low temperature on the soldering tip on your soldering iron. Ta-da! And now all that's left to do is to redo those solder joints. I could leave it like that. I mean, obviously people have repaired this in the past and they just left the flux there, but I'll be a good citizen and clean up after myself. So for that, I use some flux remover by MG Chemicals. Just a bit squirt there, and then I scrub that with a horsehair brush. Like that, and then quickly mop up the residue. Like that. And there's a couple of other spots where somebody else has repaired this receiver in the past, so I'll just clean those up as well. Flux has this nasty tendency to attract water, and I mean, granted, we don't have a lot of humidity in Alberta, but still, I think it's best practice to remove the flux once you're done soldering. So now we're ready for testing, and before I forget, I should probably put these handy dandy switch caps back on, because it would suck to get the front panel on and then suddenly realize, oh, I forgot. So, like that, let's get this back on the distortion analyzer. And now we're back up and running. As you can see, the channel to channel difference is really quite small, and the gain difference between the two channels is around like 0.2, 0.3 dB. For equipment of this age, that's really pretty good. So, cool, not bad. I am cheating a little bit, however, though, because it turned out that the source monitor switch was not the only culprit here. The input selector switch was pretty grimy as well, so I gave that a shot of contact cleaner and exercised it just by rotating the switch like that, and that took care of it. So now what I want to do is I just want to clean the volume pot, just as a good measure, and then I'm ready to button this thing up. Thankfully, the volume pot is the last thing on the board, so I can get at it from the side. And I'll use the deoxit fader lube, and I'll just squirt that into, there's a little opening in the pot there. One on each track. And then I'll exercise the pot. And with the pot at the opposite, so I had it at maximum, now it's at minimum, so I'll give it another squirt. And especially the minimum end of the pot is where you really want to give it some exercise with this fader lube in there, because the volume pot spends the majority of its time near the minimum end, at least in most households. So I'll just give that another squirt, and then I'm good to button this thing up. There you have it. One repaired receiver. Because of the intermittent nature of this issue, I'll let it run for a couple of days. I'll just use it and probably run it on the radio. The tuner in this thing is actually quite good. So I'll have some background music and let's see if the problem comes back. But I'm pretty confident that I have it fixed. At least I'm not able to provoke the issue to come back. So if you found this video helpful or informative or entertaining, drop me a like and make sure to subscribe to the Neurochrome channel. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.